The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. It's Monday night. This is Two Beards Talking. I'm Daniel Sanders, and joining me as always is my co-host DonnieJ. Donnie, how's it going?
Going wonderful. Couldn't be better. If I was any better, I'd be twins.
I don't know if I get that reference, but okay. So we got a lot to discuss, but before we get into that, as we always do, we want to give a big shout out to the troops out there. You guys are doing a good job. Come home safe. Keep up the good work. Everybody back here is rooting for you. Discussed a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine, Shannon Griffin, she and her team, Florida Snipe Show, were competing in the State Wars Hockey Tournament. And want to give a big congratulations to her and her team. They did an excellent job performing out there, so big shout out to them. So we're going to roll right into it. And as much as I hate to do it,
yeah, you got to.
Yeah,
it's the elephant in the room.
It is. It's the heffalump in the room. We have to discuss it. Very, very sad turn of events this weekend.
El Paso, Texas, Dayton, Ohio.
Yes, multiple mass shootings took place this weekend. One in El Paso, Texas, and one in Dayton, Ohio. The first shooting in El Paso started out at a Walmart where they were having back-to-school shopping, and then transferred over into a mall next door. It's my understanding the Walmart and the mall share the same property.
I got to admit something about this now. I've been standing in line at a Walmart, and you know what I'm talking about, when there's 400 people in two lines and there's 15 or 20 registers and there's 10 or 15 employees standing around on break. I've wished I had, First, I had an M16 a couple of times, but I've never acted on that. But that's not what this was about. This had nothing to do with Walmart. What this had to do with was just an idiot.
Yes.
A deranged fool.
Yes. We are not going to publicize
glorify
the shooters, any more than what the media has already done. We are not going to mention their names. We don't want to give them any publicity. The shooter in El Paso, Texas, was a 21-year-old male who, according to all reports so far, his attack was racially charged and motivated. He wrote something like a 600-page manifesto that he posted online just before he did this, glorifying Trump, the KKK, and was targeting Hispanic people in his attack.
I read part of the manifesto, not a lot of it. There's enough of it to disgust me, but he broke it down into the weapons that he was using. He broke it down into the different his reasoning, and all I could say is, and I hate to say this, it was a fairly well reasoned, eloquent manifesto for an idiot, for a moron. And it's sad that somebody that has obvious a modicum of intelligence went to wasted his life and wasted the lives of good, decent people in an act of cowardice, an act of stupidity. Somebody that could write a 600-page manifesto could have done something better with their life.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. See, a very sad incident. 20 dead so far is the number.
26 injured.
Yes. 20 people injured, or I'm sorry, 20 dead, 26 injured, and
did they take him? They took him alive?
Yes, he was taken into custody. He was taken alive, and as I'm sure you remember the Ron White joke. Where other states are trying to abolish the death penalty, Texas is putting in an express lane.
Yeah, he's alive, but it won't be for long. I guarantee you that one's going to get fast tracked through the courts.
Oh yeah, And the sad part about it, from what I have read so far, from what I've seen from all the reports that have come out so far, it took police 10 minutes to respond to this. And you'll understand my logic, my reasoning behind why I'm so shocked by this here in just a minute. It took 10 minutes for police to respond to this.
Okay.
Now, anybody who has been in combat, in a firefight, or even trained to be in a firefight, in combat, anything like that, knows that 10 minutes is an eternity.
10 minutes might as well be 10 days. It's like it goes on and on forever. 1 minute in a firefight is like 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour.
Yes.
So 10 minutes is – he could have – I mean, the damage that he did was substantial, but he could have done so much more.
Absolutely, because it was reported he was using an AK-47 rifle.
Give one well-trained Marine 10 minutes and that much weapon, that much ammunition. I mean, it's. I'm not even going to go there. But 10 minutes to respond. I mean, I don't. That took a long time.
Yes, that's 10 minutes.
I'm not throwing on. I want to make out that we're not throwing shade on the first responders, because they got there and they took the guy. They got the guy in custody, which is a good thing.
Right.
But just 10 minutes. That must have for the people who had to endure that 10 minutes, as Daniel said, that was an eternity.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll reiterate, like you said, we're not bashing first responders in any way on this.
Absolutely not.
Because I know there's processes that have to be gone through and so on and so, but still 10 minutes is just, like I said, forever.
Well, and again, just last weekend, there was the shooting that was in California at the Garlic Festival. Yes. And so I think maybe they might have been a little, they may have been on higher alert. It could have taken longer had that not have happened. They may have been, a little higher alert than normal. But and then we go to Dayton. Okay.
Yes.
How long did it take the response in Dayton was like much quicker?
Seconds.
Yes, because
literally seconds.
He was right next to some police officers, basically, right down the street.
Yeah, literally, there were police officers right up the street when he started shooting. Now, the Dayton shooter was killed at the scene. I won't say shooter. I'll say suspect.
Yes, alleged shooter.
Was killed at the scene. 24-year-old male. I haven't read anything about what his motive was yet. Mm-hmm. But so far the report is 9 killed, 27 injured. Wow. In seconds, literal seconds. And he was using what the media is saying is an assault-style rifle in .223 caliber with high-capacity max. It was an AR-15. Just call it what it is. It was an AR-15.
Yeah. A civilian version of an M16.
Yeah. It was an AR-15. We're not going to beat around the bush. I haven't seen any pictures of it, but based on everything that I've seen in the media with how they handle things, an assault-style rifle at a .223 caliber with a high-capacity magazine, it's an
AR-15.
Yeah. I will say I'm impressed that they're actually calling the weapon the shooter used in El Paso an AK-47, because that's essentially what it was.
Yeah.
It was a civilian variant of an AK-47. It was semi-automatic. You can see it in the pictures. Security footage shows him walking into Walmart. He's wearing hearing protection.
He was well prepared.
He was. He was wearing hearing protection.
And in his manifesto, he talks about the weapons that he used, and he talks about the ammunition he's using, and how the different ways it's going to respond, and how he had to wear gloves. And I mean, he was well prepared for what he did. And I just want to point out that they're going to be equally well prepared when they strap his ass to a gurney and stick a needle in his arm. They're going to be very well prepared too. I'm sorry I had to say that.
I personally wish they'd bring back hanging just for him.
Well, he doesn't deserve a firing squad, because that's a soldier's death. What he deserves is a hanging, or
a public hanging at that,
or the electric chair. Of course, in Texas, they're going to put in the electric couch, probably. But
Yeah.
but the point that we're talking about, we're not giving these shooters any glory or 15 minutes of fame. I wanted to point out, we Daniel and I both have our own political leanings. Okay, I tend to lean liberal a little bit, but my liberalism does not include anything to do with guns. I believe gun control is shooting and being able to hit your target while it's moving from 100 yards.
Yeah.
That's my idea of gun control.
Yeah.
I think one of my professors in college said it right when he said, during the days of the Old West when everybody wore a gun, people were much nicer to one another.
Absolutely, yes.
They said, the phrase that you heard, well, smile when you say that, boy, so I know that you're kidding me. Otherwise, we're going to have to step outside. I mean, seriously, people were nicer. And think about this. If the people in Walmart had been armed, if the people that he was shooting at had been armed, how long would this have happened? How long would this have taken place? How many lives could have been saved theoretically?
Right. Now, that having been said, I'm pulling up an article right now. There was one individual who I'm going to give all the glory in the world to as soon as I get this. I
think I know where you're going, but
yeah. As soon as I get this individual's name, if they even have his name. He is a soldier stationed at Fort Bliss.
Yep.
And I did not. He's a private first class. Hey, good on you, PFC. Being hailed as a hero after he helped evacuate children from a Texas shopping mall during a deadly mass shooting on Saturday, El Paso. Mm-hmm. Private first class Glendon Oakley Jr. He's an automated logistical specialist assigned to the 504th Composite Supply Company stationed at Fort Bliss. And according to everything that I've read, he was armed. He was legally carrying a firearm when the shooting went down, and he was escorting children to safety while the shooting was happening.
That's a hero.
Absolutely.
Put his life on the line to save kids. Now, rather than trying to be the hero that he really is and go out and try and take out the shooter, he said, there's kids here, and I got to see to them first.
Yeah.
That's a soldier.
Says here, in an interview with MSNBC, Oakley said he was shopping at a Foot Locker when a child ran into the store and reported the mass shooting. Seconds later, he heard gunfire. Oakley, who has a gun permit, drew his weapon and ran out of the store. And
now that was dangerous for him right there, as they proved down in Hoover. I mean, you might not ought to draw, but that's just a soldier's instinct right there. You hear gunfire, something's going on. What do? You draw your weapon.
Yeah, and this is a quote from him in his article or in his interview with MSNBC. He says, "I saw a whole bunch of kids running around without their parents. I tried to pick up as many as I could and bring them with me." That is like, if this man does not get a frickin' medal, then there's something wrong.
Well, he probably won't get a medal because he wasn't in armed combat with an enemy, in a military exercise. But you know what? I think he should get the key to the city. I think he should get a parade and definitely the recognition that he deserves, because that is just that is what our armed services do. That is what the training that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Coast Guardsmen, that is what brings out the essence of the hero, the training that they go through, the things that it's been years since I've been in, but I mean, I remember being told, hey, if something ever happens, if there's ever a crisis, if there's ever anything goes on in the civilian world, you've got your uniform and know how to use it, know when to, what to do, and how to act, and that. This PFC, I mean, I would guarantee, I would bet that there's a promotion somewhere in his future.
I'm betting you're probably right, and it's not going to be one of those automatic promotions either. This is probably a go to the PX, buy your next freaking rank insignia, come back, and you're pinning it on. Exactly.
But so we salute you, sir.
Absolutely, yes. So PFC Oakley, God bless you, sir.
Good on you, man.
So yeah, that is the one that is the one bit of light that has come out of it so far.
Well, there may be more to come out later on, but right now it's just unfortunate. It's terrible. It's tragic. But it's like I said earlier, and I know people are going to hate it when I say this. People are going to say, yeah, you're not a liberal, but guns don't kill people. People kill other people. People have been killing people since the beginning of time. Cain didn't have an M16 when he killed Abel. He had a big rock. Archers used arrows. People have been killing people since time began, and in the name of God all over the world. And they did it without M16s, without AK-47s. They did it without AR-15s. They did it without automatic weapons. And the thing is this, it doesn't matter, like I said, whether you've got a rock, a knife, or a firearm. If you're going to kill somebody, you're going to find a way to kill somebody.
And, here's the thing about that. For the longest time, you know what the deadliest weapon in the world was?
Scissors?
No, this was even before scissors.
What was that?
A yo-yo.
Okay, I'm calling bullshit on that.
No, I am dead serious. A yo-yo used to be... A yo-yo is actually considered one of the first ranged weapons.
Are we talking about like David and Goliath, the sling?
No. I'm talking about what we know as a child's toy today was considered one of the deadliest weapons because you had the capability. For one, I think I was reading the first yo-yo was actually made out of stone.
Okay.
And you had the capability of launching it at your target, causing damage, and then pulling it back
and
being able to do it again.
That makes sense. Well, if you also take in consideration that the airbag was originally invented as an execution device.
Really?
The airbag was originally invented as an execution device. You would put the prisoner up close to it, pull the bag, and it comes out so quickly it would snap the neck back and break the neck, much in the same manner as hanging, only without having to hang them. And sometimes if you didn't judge it right, if you didn't get the weights just right, or the distance from the fall and the drop and the rope and everything, all the variables correct, a hangman, from time to time, a head would pop off. Different things could happen that were kind of bad and gross. And so later on, as technology developed, they came out with the airbag, and it was originally, and I read this, I could be wrong, but that it was designed as an execution device.
That's pretty interesting. I'm going to have to do some reading into that.
Information that you really didn't need to know. But anyway,
the more you know, and knowledge is power.
But the Dayton, moving on very briefly to Dayton, Ohio. There's still some things coming in on that one because that one's it's only, I would say, newer, and it's sad to say that's relatively it is newer. It's a day newer than the other one. I said it earlier to Daniel. We were talking. The sad thing about all of these, we had to look up what constitutes a mass shooting, and then there's mass shooting and public mass shooting. And the sad thing is that it is so bad that we have definitions. We have parameters that constitute mass shooting or public mass shooting, and it involves numbers and people and where you are when it happens, and this is bullshit. This shouldn't be.
And what prompted that whole discussion there was I had seen a report on one of the mainstream media sites that said there have been 249 mass shootings so far this year. And on this article, this is coming from CBS News.
251 now.
251 mass shootings as of today.
Well, that includes...
Or as of Sunday, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that includes El Paso and Dayton this past weekend.
Yes. The total of 251 mass shootings include 5 high-profile rampages in the past 8 days in which more than 100 people were shot. A shooting in a historic district of Dayton, Ohio, which killed 9 people and injured 27. A shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, with 20 killed and 26 wounded. A shooting at the Gilroy Garlic Festival in the San Francisco Bay Area, which killed 3 and injured 15. Shooting at a Brooklyn block party with 1 person killed and 11 injured. And then a shooting at a Walmart in South Haven, Mississippi, with 2 people killed and 2 injured. Now, my problem with that is I actually have what the unofficial definition of a mass shooting is. This is coming. I hate to say this, but this is coming from Wikipedia. It's not always the most reliable source, but according to this, it says a mass shooting is an incident involving multiple victims of firearms-related violence. There is no widely accepted definition of the term mass shooting. The United States Congressional Research Service acknowledges that there is not a broadly accepted definition and defines a, quote, public mass shooting, end quote, as an event where someone selects 4 or more people indiscriminately and kills them, echoing the FBI's definition of the term mass murder.
So California, the Garlic Festival, was a public mass shooting.
According to, if we go based off of that, it says 3 people killed in the Gilroy Garlic Fest. Now, 15 injured, so if any of those injured die as a result...
Then we...
Yes. The fact that we're having to break it down like this...
is ridiculous.
Only 3 people were killed, and nobody else. So but if one of the injured dies 50 years from now then we can call Gilroy...
a public mass shooting.
Yes.
That's pathetic.
It is.
It's that we're having to break it down, that we're having to have this discussion, that we're having to look at the elephant in the room again is bad enough. But that we've got to break down these definitions this way is just it's a sign of the times. It's sad, but again, it's people that kill people.
Yeah. The problem is, and I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm holding my cell phone in my hand. You've got your cell phone right there.
Right.
I have my computer in front of me. Mm-hmm. You have a computer right there in front of you.
Correct.
I would say, and I'm just gonna spitball a number here. I'm going to say the average person owns at the very least a cell phone, a laptop, a desktop, a smart television device that has the capabilities of web browsing, connecting to social media, so on and so. I think we as a society have become so desensitized to human interaction because of electronic devices that we don't know, we as a society do not understand the value of human life anymore. Because we have no real human interaction. Well,
you make a valid point, and to add to that, those who and everybody looks at Facebook, Twitter, the various social networking sites, social media. They have. I read an article about this as far as desensitization goes. There are places, different centers throughout the United States that's employed by Google, by Facebook, that they monitor the content that we don't see. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that says, okay, we're taking this off because it violates community standards, violates the content, of Facebook, and these people suffer. And there was a big article about it because they're not getting the benefits that they need, psychological and psychiatric help, because the stuff they see is so disturbing. We don't see it because they're the ones that see it and take it down.
Right.
People playing baseball with a puppy, or people abusing a child, or something so terrible. But the sad thing is that there are people out there that are desensitized to something like that. It means nothing to them. When we hear about a mass shooting, most people will clear. Oh, wow, mass shooting. Oh, well, hey, look, what's on TV tonight? I mean, it is that bad. This was a terrible, terrible thing. The whole world would stop, and now it's just another day.
Yeah, it really is. And like I said, I have seen firsthand, and I'm sure you've probably seen it too. I'm sure you've probably met somebody or talked to somebody that you've just met for the first time, and you exchange phone numbers, guy or girl, whatever, and they'll say, "Text me." I don't do phone calls. Text me.
Because it's less personal, less interpersonal interaction, and you can tailor whatever you say. You can back up. You can change what. It's like editing. Okay, I can edit what I say. I can edit how I think to make myself sound good.
Yeah.
That way you don't really know what I'm like. You don't really know who I am.
Yeah.
Wonder how much editing this son of a bitch did down in El Paso or in Dayton, Ohio. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And by that, what I mean is, did no one ever see this guy and go, man, something ain't right with him? There's just something off here.
Yeah. And, I saw just a few minutes ago, as I was pulling up these articles, I saw a headline that said the shooter in Dayton had a hit list in high school.
And nobody thought to say anything about that. Nobody thought to stop him. Nobody thought to, wow.
Yeah.
A hit list in high school. Well, that's becoming more prevalent since Columbine back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I remember that, and that was the big shock. For days and days and days and days it went on. For a month it went on about Columbine. When I was in law school, it was a mock case that we did about Columbine. And I mean, I remember the names. I'm not going to say them, but I remember them just like it was yesterday. But in a week, this will be forgotten.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, there'll be no mention of this on the news except for, I mean, when's the last time you heard about the guy who did the killing in Charleston?
Yeah.
It's already out of the news. It's already gone.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for the life of, and even if I could remember it, I wouldn't say it, but I can't remember his name for the life of me.
I remember it, but like you, I'm not going to say it. I'm not giving these bastards 15 minutes of fame. They don't deserve it. They've gotten more time than they deserve in our podcast here, but like you said, it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah. And that is something that I would love to see the media adopt. Stop giving these people 15 minutes of fame. Stop giving them any glorification.
The media can't help it. They're like it's like a cat that's sitting still, that's trying to behave, and a mouse runs across in front of him. The cat can't help itself. It's got to go chase. It's like a dog chase. It's like the scene from the Batman. I'm like a dog chasing a car. I don't know what to do when I catch one. The media is the same way. It's listen to the song by Don Henley, Dirty Laundry. Mm-hmm. Got the bubble-headed bleach blonde that comes on at 5. She can tell you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye. It's interesting when people die. We love Dirty Laundry. We're as much to blame, not as much to blame, but we are also to blame for this crap because we give them publicity. We give them notoriety. We give them their 15 minutes of fame, and the next idiot says, I'm going to go buy a gun, and I'm going to be famous.
Yeah. And I think that would curb a lot of it. If they would report the news. This is news. Report the news. Don't report their names. Do not give them any publicity. Do like we did. 21-year-old shooter in custody.
Well, like Fox News, I mean, I was on the air at my radio station last weekend during the garlic. I guess I got to call it the garlic massacre. Sounds like a bunch of vampires died. But anyway, during the shooting at the Garlic Festival, and they stayed on, and it was breaking news on and on and on and on. And that's the only thing that you saw on the screen. Now, the ticker at the bottom of the screen reported other things, but all you saw on the footage was the same footage over and over. And every now and then they get a different bleeper, and they would go to cops, but it just dominated the airwaves. It dominated the TV, and if this guy's up and they still hadn't apprehended him, now let's just say, for example, he's up in the woods with a handheld TV or some kind of or smartphone. He's watching himself, going, "Hey, I'm gonna pick another one off.
Yeah,
I know where they know where I'm at, so I'm gonna move over here." It's like broadcasting troop movement during a war.
Yeah,
there's a reason why we stopped that shit, and this is it. But they don't apply it to the civilian world, and that's how idiots like this are able to plot and plan. And I'm not blaming the media entirely, but I'm saying everybody has a hand in this in one way or another.
Yeah, and if everybody would do their part, I won't say if everybody would do their part. If certain individuals would do their part, then, like I said, we could curb all this shit, and I won't say it'll put a stop to all gun violence. I won't say it'll put a stop to all mass shootings, but you'll have fewer individuals out there that would, because I think, I won't say a lot of them, but I think a good majority, I'd say probably about 30% of them.
Well, I would be interested, just from an intellectual standpoint, to see a psych eval of these idiots. Did anyone anywhere, and you said one of them had a hit list in high school.
Yeah.
Did any one of them anywhere, somewhere along the way, did someone go, this guy needs monitoring. We might want to keep an eye on this guy.
Yeah.
There are people that I know that can't get a firearm that are responsible, outstanding citizens, but because they maybe ran a stop sign and somebody died, maybe because they had a DUI, maybe because they were involved in an altercation somewhere, or they wrote a bad check, whatever, if they've got that felon hanging over their head, which encompasses about, God knows, I can't even count how many different offenses. I mean, it's like everything can be a felony. But if they've got that over their head, they're not allowed to carry a weapon. Yet somebody who has a clean record can go in, buy a firearm, and go into a Walmart and start shooting people.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. But, I mean, there's no real workaround for that unless you do away with HIPAA.
Well, how about we, it's long and involved, and people complain about a 5-day waiting period now. But, I mean, do you think the people who died in El Paso would have liked for there to have been a longer waiting period for this idiot to get his weapon, or for maybe for someone to do a psyche eval and go, this guy's not quite all there, and maybe we need to think twice? I'm sure if you could ask the ones who died, they'd say, you might should have done that shit.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm just saying, until somebody can come up,
there's no simple solution.
There isn't, and I don't think there ever will be.
There's not a fix-all. It's not.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think there ever will be. So we definitely want to send out our condolences and
best wishes for those who are injured. We're hoping that it stops at 20 in El Paso and just 9 in Dayton. We're hoping that the ones who are injured come through okay. I'm not really sure who's critical and who's not, but our prayers, our thoughts, our prayers, our good energy, good vibes are with those who did survive, and condolences, of course, for the families and the victims in El Paso and in Dayton. Yes, absolutely. So.
Okay, so we're done talking about the heffalump in the room.
Okay.
And I know you had this was an interesting topic that you brought up, and I'm interested to see how this is going to go.
Yeah,
I'll put it to just to give you a little bit of a teaser. This is not going to be a popular topic with some people.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of you out there are probably going to go, fuck yeah, this guy makes a lot of sense.
So here we go. How many of you have ever had to, for whatever reason, you got a DUI or for whatever reason, you've had to do a drug test?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that 90% of our listeners, being in the military, they've had to pee in a cup at some point.
Absolutely. And if any of you have ever known for a fact that you are clean, you know for a fact, without a doubt, that there's just no way, and they come back and say, yeah, you tested positive. Okay, so we're going to blah, blah, blah. We're going to arrest you. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to revoke this. We're going to da-da-da-da-da-da. And you're going, I didn't do it. Yeah, sure. Well, here in the great state of Alabama, we have a shitbag, a worthless piece of crap. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, a bitch named Brandy Murrah, 36 years old, allegedly. Now, well, this is not alleged. She has 2 counts of forgery already on her. Well, actually, before this, she had fraud. She'd been convicted of fraud. Okay. Right now, this 36-year-old in Ozark, Alabama, cops down there have charged her with, get this, this could be the tip of the iceberg. They've charged her with 2 counts of forging drug tests performed by A&J Lab Collections, which is owned by Brandy Murrah. Okay, it's her company. And authorities so far say that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And she's only 36 years old. She looks like she's more like in the early 60s. But anyway, she had a contract with Dale County Department of Human Resources to do drug tests and paternity tests on people who were involved in custody cases, but not criminal cases. Well, here's what happened. It turns out that they don't really know how many cases that this woman has forged. Parents have lost children because their tests came back positive. People have gone to jail because their tests came back positive. People have lost jobs because their tests came back positive. Why? Simply because this bitch who pled guilty to 5 counts of credit card fraud in 2013 and was sentenced to probation, somehow this woman was allowed to handle sensitive screenings that determine the futures of families. Somebody's drug screen. What happened? Somebody got positive, and they said, "Wait a minute, I'm clean." I can imagine somebody who's just Mr. like Leave It to Beaver's dad or something. Ward Cleaver goes down and gets popped, and he's like, "Man, there's just no way," So what happened is they called the company. Well, they called the police department actually. They called the physician who signed the paperwork, and the physician said, "I didn't sign that drug test." Really? So then they called the sheriff's department, Henry County Sheriff's Office. Then they called the district attorney's office. Then they called the Department of Human Resources. And no, we don't know what you're talking about. No. And now they're sifting through dozens of tests that her company completed just to try and find out how many people they're going to have to let out of jail. And here's the kicker. She's currently out of jail on $2,000 bond. $2,000. $2,000 bond. She's out of jail. She sent people to jail. She had families destroyed. She had lives wrecked. She had jobs taken away. And this worthless piece of shit bitch, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be, forgive my language, but it's the kindest thing I can think of for Brandon Murrah. This monster is out on a $2,000 bond. All I can say is, lady, if I were you, I'd wear body armor because there's some people out there that have a bone to pick with you. But that this is allowed to happen, as I was talking to Daniel earlier, is just part and parcel of an underlying cancer that exists in our justice system. Our justice system is broken, and this is a tip of the iceberg because, I mean, it goes from an idiot like this who we still don't know why she did this. There's no reason. We don't know why she did it.
Well, I'm sitting here reading on the same article that in 2013 she was arrested and subsequently pled guilty to 5 counts of credit card fraud.
There's a fraud right there. That should tell you something. There's a red flag. Hey, she lies. She committed fraud. She's a con artist.
She was sentenced to 3 years probation, and yet somehow the woman who was actually convicted of fraud was allowed to handle sensitive screenings that determined the futures of entire families.
And judges signed off on this. DHR people, which every state has a different thing. South Carolina's DSS. It's the people that takes kids away from families. All these people signed off on it. They trusted her. Nobody ever once thought to do a background check on the person that's checking on people's background. Am I missing something here, Daniel? I mean, I'm trying to find out how this happened, but the thing is, and this is just one thing. Now, we've got a sheriff that in just one county over from us, we're in Marshall County, Alabama. We have a sheriff in Etowah County. His name's Todd Entrican, and he did not violate a law here. I can't stress this enough. He did nothing wrong under Alabama law, except he starved inmates to the tune of $750,000 that he saved by not feeding them and bought himself a fucking beach house. This is Alabama, boys and girls. Yeah. Alabama the beautiful.
Like you said, not by law, by Alabama law.
He did nothing wrong.
Criminal or illegal, but morally. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying anybody should eat filet mignon.
Yeah,
but I mean, okay, $750,000.
Yeah,
and they were complaining about getting 2 slices of bread with a very thin, like the I'm not going to mention the name, but there's like a hams you can get out there, and it's like paper thin slice. They'd get like 1 slice on 2 slices of bread. Now, I'm not saying let's give inmates filet mignon. I'm not saying that they should be but there's a line between starving them and some of these were being seen for malnutrition. They're going to the doctor, and the doctor's like, well, we don't know. You're suffering from rickets. You're suffering from diseases we haven't seen in forever. That points to malnutrition. Yet the sheriff, he got him a beach house down in Gulf Shores. So
yeah.
And And it's just business as usual in Alabama. And as I said, it's not against the law. It dates back to a law that's decades old that says that the sheriff of every county in the state of Alabama can keep whatever money they do not spend on inmates, okay, to use for whatever they want to. And some have bought cars, some have bought boats,
some have bought beach houses and Gulf Shores.
And this is when you've got public officials that can do this. I mean, yeah, it didn't violate a law, but let's remember something. Neither did the Nazis in Germany in 1939. Everything that they did was not against the law. It was the law. Everything that they did to the Jews was the law. What this sheriff did was the law. All he did was obey the law. And you know what? The argument didn't work for the Nazis at the Nuremberg trials. We were simply going by the law. There's laws of man. And this is like one of those things, well, let's starve somebody so that I can have a nice house. I have a problem with that. And this all goes to the cult of rot, of cancer that's in the justice system today. And it doesn't stop with a sheriff. It doesn't stop with a lady who owns a lab. It also goes to judges. We had a judge not too long ago, and I tried to find the research on it. It was a kickback scam where he would send kids to this juvenile facility, a for-profit juvenile facility, a privately owned juvenile facility. He would find these kids guilty and send them off, and he was getting kickbacks in cash. It was a scheme where they would certain attorneys would bring these kids before this judge, and this judge would find them guilty, and he would sentence them to juvie, to this private juvenile facility. And I'm wondering how many results were falsified? How does this happen? How do these people, and this guy is out on bail because he was a judge.
And I mean, there's so many examples that we can. I mean, Jussie Smollett.
Yes.
There was all kinds like. The district attorney recusing herself from the case because of her personal affiliation with Jussie Smollett, but then working the case,
right? Yeah,
backseat driver kind of thing.
Well, here's the sad thing: there's laws for some people, and there's two sets of laws. The laws for the wealthy and the laws wealthy and rich and famous, and then there's laws for everybody else. There's no rich people in prison. Okay,
you forgot about the laws for the Clintons. That's a totally different set of laws.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you call those laws? But anyway, yeah. But there's no wealthy people in prison. If you've got enough money, you can get out on a $2,000 bond after ruining families' lives like Miss Murrah did down in Ozark. You can get out on a bond after sending kids to juvie, dozens and dozens and dozens of kids to juvie for making money. If you obey the law as the law is written, you can have a beach house by starving inmates. And it's a problem. It's just these are just three examples, three different levels of our justice system. It goes to police officers, district attorneys. In Madison, just a few years ago, we had a cop that literally paralyzed a gentleman from India, and this was like actually 4 houses down from where I was living at the time in the city of Madison, Alabama. Mm-hmm. This elderly Indian gentleman was walking down the sidewalk, and somebody had their garage open. He thought, oh, wow, that looks interesting. He just kind of stepped up a little bit. Didn't walk in the garage, just walked up, kind of in the driveway and was looking in there. There's a brown man out here looking in my garage. Well, here comes the vaunted Madison City Police Department, and Officer Eric Freeman jumped out. And you can hear him in the video. He tells the other cop, just watch what I do. He's like, what are you doing? Wait, why won't you? He's arguing with him in kind of a redneck hick voice, and he just kicks his feet out from under him, takes him down, slams him. The elderly man, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't speak English, number one. He's from India. He'd come over to take care of his grandkids while his son and daughter worked for NASA, or Marshall Space Flight Center, rather. So this cop paralyzes this guy, beats the crap out of him. He gets suspended with pay, as they always do, and he goes on trial, and he's found not guilty. And it's become that was the beginning for me. I started watching things. As a former law student, I've always watched the law and how the law evolves, or in this case, devolves. And I started thinking, now, if a cop can do, there's an old saying, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Somebody please tell me, what is more absolute than the ability to take your freedom away from you at a whim, or take your life away from you on a whim? Nothing. That's the absolute power. Police officer holds that power when he can cuff you and put you in the back of it. Now, he can release you later and say, oh, we made a mistake, which they never do. They can dismiss charges later and say, we made a mistake, and it'll be printed on the page 12 after you've been, spotlighted on front page. They always cover up their mistakes, and the culture of rot continues. Let me stress this. There are some fine police officers out there. I've known many of them. I went to school with some of them. They are fine. They uphold the law. They protect the citizens. They actually embody the term serve and protect. There are some fine police officers out there. This guy in Madison is not one of them. And there's several more out there that have, every day you see it, every day, somewhere in this country, there's a cop somewhere that abuses his authority. Somewhere in this country, there's a district attorney that does a bad deal, that does a shady deal. Somewhere in this country, there's a judge that takes a bribe. Somewhere in this country, there's some idiot that ruins someone's lives, like this fool down in Ozark, Alabama. And we're becoming more and more a police state that is run by a corrupt judicial system. And do I have an answer? No, I really don't. But it's something that not many people are looking at, and I think it should be addressed, because what's going to happen, and here's where I'm tying all this in, Daniel. When you have all these things happening, you've got people that feel powerless. These people that lost their kids, there's nothing we can do. It's the system. This guy that got his ass beat by a cop in Madison, Alabama, went by the system, and nothing happened. No justice there. These kids that got shipped off to juvie because of a judge that wanted to take a bribe, okay? There was nothing they could do until it was found out. What you have is you have people that are feeling helpless. People that feel helpless, people that feel like the system has failed them, people that feel like there is no justice. But by God, I got an AK-47. Boom.
Boom.
So what we're seeing, it can be, you can say it's mental illness. Maybe people are getting pissed off. I don't know. I don't think this guy in El Paso, I think he needs a needle stuck in his arm. His was racially motivated. Let's flush this shit bag down the toilet and forget about him. The Dayton, Ohio, I don't know what's going on there, and we never will because, well, he's dead. But there are people out there who are getting pretty much tired of the police overstepping their boundaries, or by converse, not doing what they should do. And the same thing with the justice system. And it's going to come a point in time that, I'm not going to go so far to say there's going to be a second revolution, but, hey, anything is possible.
I think personally we're already in the midst of a second revolution. I call it a revolutionary Cold War.
That's a unique term, a cold revolution.
Yes.
Well, you could very well be right, but as I was saying, when you see more and more of what's happening here, the failure of the judicial system, the failure of the police departments, the failure of good people to stand up. It was Edmund Burke that said the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good men out there that are doing nothing, and there's a lot of good men that are standing up in there that are saying things that are not being heard. One person stands up and nothing happens. 100 people stand up and people listen. 1,000 people stand up and we've got something going on here. If you get enough people that will stand up, but that's a problem right now. And that goes back to something else. A lot of people say, well, it doesn't affect me. I'm an upstanding citizen, or I don't carry a firearm, or this has nothing to do with me. And it's something that I've had on my wall for a long time. I've had it for years and years. And my children grew up seeing this plaque on my wall. And it's a quote from Pastor Martin Niemöller. And it says, in 1939, first they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't stand up because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't stand up because I wasn't a Catholic. Then they came for the intellectuals, and I didn't stand up because I wasn't a teacher. And then they came for these people, and I didn't stand up because I wasn't this. And then finally it goes, then they came for the Jews, and I didn't stand up because I was a Protestant. And then they came for me, and by that time there was no one left to stand up. Mm-hmm. And it was by a pastor who witnessed the Holocaust, and it was entitled Speak Up. And what we have is enough people not speaking up, and sooner or later, what's going to happen is this cancer is going to keep, like cancer does, it's going to grow. It's going to keep growing. The rot is going to continue. And like I said, I'm not trying to tie this into the idiots that happened, that did what they did this weekend. But you've seen the movie. What's the movie? Falling Down? Kurt with the actor. I'm trying to think.
Was it the guy that did the thing at the place with all those people that one time?
Yeah, he was just had a white short sleeve shirt and a pocket protector, and he was just trying to get home to his daughter. I think it was called Falling Down, and it starred. Is it that Michael Douglas movie? Yes, that's the one.
Yes,
that's the one.
The one where he goes postal.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, and I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying. that I can actually see something like this happening more and more often, because a lot of people are just basically getting fed up with the system, with the lack of response, or with responding the wrong way, with injustice as a whole. And I'm not trying to sound like a crusader here. I'm just an average guy who sees things like what's going on in my own state of Alabama. And I'm getting really pissed off, and people are going. Everybody, where else is going? Oh, that's Alabama. You know, they're crazy down in Alabama anyway, and we are. But
we're giving Florida man a run for his money.
Like we said a few weeks ago on our podcast, Alabama's new motto ought to be "Thank God for Louisiana," because if not for Louisiana, we'd be dead last in everything. But seriously, folks, a lot of crazy shit happening in Alabama and down in the southern states and Texas, whatever. But you know what? It could happen where you are, too.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's boom.
Got all serious there. You didn't expect that, did you? I'm usually the guy that just goes, yeah.
No, I wasn't expecting it to all come
back to
full
that
circle like you did. I mean, this is like some fucking Lion King Circle of Life type shit here.
Well, my training is in law. I did go to law school, so I kind of made my summation there. And I was thinking about this earlier, and it's in your analogy. I've never heard that term before, but I like that. A Cold War revolution.
A revolutionary Cold War.
Revolutionary Cold War. I think that's what we're in. I think it could happen, and you're going to have – these are just idiots with weapons. What happens when the intellectual people, when the smart people, when the people that have really got a crawl up their ass get mad? Yeah. And they're well-armed and educated.
Yeah. You think back to the late 70s and early 80s, right after Vietnam, the
culture protest. Yeah, the Cold War.
Yeah. The tension between Russia and the U.S.
Yes.
That's the state that we're in right now in this country.
It's a powder keg ready for someone to ignite it.
It is.
Absolutely.
And all it's going to take is, something similar to the Cuban Missile Crisis to set it off.
One spark could ignite the whole thing.
Yeah.
And no one knows what I don't know what that'll be. Whether it's going to be a Cuban Missile Crisis, whether it's going to be an absurd law passed that's just ridiculous, whether it's going to be an innocent person being railroaded by the system. And I found out what that term meant the other day. I'm not going to get into it now, but how a railroad come to be. But I mean, it's going to take something innocuous that most people aren't going to see coming. And it's going to be almost like a Tom Clancy novel, The Bear and the Dragon. The book starts out, and my favorite line is, "It was kind of an innocuous way for a war to begin." no one would have seen it coming. And that's the truth. When this thing happens, we have a well-armed citizenry that's going to be pissed.
Mm-hmm.
So, my favorite line from V for Vendetta, people should not fear their governments. Governments should fear their people.
Absolutely.
So, those of you in power, if you're listening, there's other people out there that think the way I do too.
Yep, absolutely. So we are running out of time here, so I'm going to take the opportunity to mention a few things. Next week, we're going to be running a contest.
Yes.
I kind of got the idea to do this after our little special that we did on movies and their subsequent sequels 30, 40 years later. Movie quotes. We're going to play a movie quote. And I will give you the phone number to call after we play the movie quote. First person to call in with the correct answer will receive a prepaid Visa gift card courtesy of Two Beards Talking.
Yeesh. It's going to be awesome. So be listening and brush up on your movie quotes.
Absolutely. And don't forget to go on our Facebook page, Two Beards Talking. Follow us, interact with us, give us a shout out. We'd really appreciate it. We like interacting with people.
Absolutely. I hear from some of them on the radio station. Sometimes I've actually had people call and say, "Hey, man, I heard your podcast the other night," and it's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So we love interacting with
people. And we
love
hearing from the troops too. You guys, you guys overseas, hey, give us a call.
Yeah, and like I said, go on the page, interact with us. If you want us to give you a shout out over the air, just go on the page, tell us who you are, where you're at, and we'll do it. Absolutely, 100%. Twitter, we're also on Twitter. I don't think I've given you the Twitter information yet.
No, but not yet. We're getting there.
And I'll be honest, really and truly, the only thing I use Twitter for is following people like Kamala Harris and Ocasio-Cortez and.
Well, I got to say this: as long as you don't tweet about everything that goes on, like a certain individual who inhabits 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, just the other night, as a matter of fact, Alyssa Milano shared something about the shooting down in Texas and how she brought up House Resolution 8, Bill H.R. 8. And it's this whole gun control measure that the Democrats want and all that, but you got to look it up and see what kind of bullshit it is. But one of her followers and supporters said something about assault rifles.
Okay.
And first and foremost, assault rifle is a bad term. I hate that term. There's no such thing as an assault rifle, in my opinion. But
rifles don't assault people. People do.
Exactly. But he made a comment about assault rifles, and my only response to it was, somewhere there is a tree working extra hard to produce the oxygen that you're wasting, and you need to go find it and apologize immediately.
I love that.
That's really about the only thing I use Twitter
Daniel,
for.
That's pretty epic. That's epic, buddy. That is epic. Epic.
And I'm going to give credit to one of my old platoon sergeants because I used to hear him say that all the time. There is a tree somewhere working really hard to produce the oxygen that you're wasting. You need to go find it and apologize.
Well, there was another phrase that I heard that and I've seen some of the things from what's her name? Alexandria Ocasio, whatever. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, jackass.
Yeah, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, yes. And yes, I know I'm a liberal, and I'm probably going to catch hell for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Sometimes I read her stuff, and I'm reminded of something that a chief petty officer said to me one time. That's as fucked up as a soup sandwich.
Oh, man. Well, we're going to leave it at that right there. Again, big shout out to all the troops out there. You guys are doing a great job.
We salute you.
Absolutely. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. This has been Two Beards Talking right here on Armed Radio. I'm Daniel Sanders.
I'm DonnieJ.
Thanks for listening, guys.